Hello, everyone, and welcome along to another Tune Under podcast. After a rather dismal game, performance-wise, I think we'll all agree, but we're here to at least be a little bit chipper and upbeat over it and run through the events on and off the pitch recently. Joining me today is Jack, a little bit less sleep-deprived tonight. Jack, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm feeling good today. I was a wreck last week, but yeah, for some reason I feel a bit. I think I'm becoming accustomed already to the late nights, and I've got a bit of a strategy now for a bit of sleep before the game. So yeah, I'm feeling a bit better than last week. I'm feeling good.
I did my best to try and get a nap beforehand before the game on Saturday, and it just never happened. So yeah, I'm struggling a bit today, but we'll soldier on. We'll soldier on.
And the thing is, you've got the early game, which is really exciting as well.
Yeah.
So I quite wanted to watch Villa v Everton, but I just knew I needed to get a couple of hours sleep. So I managed to do that, and yeah, it all worked out well. But I'm sure that'll change next time.
Makes all the difference. And also joining us is Keegan down in Geelong. A little bit more sleep deprived, I think. Is burning the candle at both ends, Keegan?
Yeah, I've been living in Jack's apartment in Struggletown the last 3 or 4 days. So hopefully we'll be back on track next weekend.
Cool. Yeah, a little bit extra sleep and no more late night concerts and footy, end of season footy finals and stuff. Will do you well. Cool. So, obviously it's the Brighton away game that we're going to be discussing tonight. We did a live watch along. It was a pretty hard going game to do the commentary and commentating on at that time in the morning when there wasn't a great deal to shout about for a Newcastle fan. But we are going to try our best to be a little bit more positive than we potentially were last night. Let's probably go through the team lineups first. So Brighton home team, Sanchez in goal, Webster, Dunk, March, Mac Allister. That isn't McAllister, it's Mac Allister because he is an Argentinian footballer, not a Scottish footballer, as we were finding out last night mid-game. Trossard, Gross, Lallana, Welbeck, Casado, and Veltman. Some pretty tasty substitutes that they've got there. Probably most notably is Lamptey. Jack, I'll hit you up first. What do you make of that squad, and what did you make of it at the time?
Well, when I saw the Brighton formation from the Man United game that Craig and Keegan had up in the preview, it made me feel horrible because it wasn't symmetrical. So I was like, hang on a minute, what's this weird 3-3-3-1 sort of formation? But even in the Man United game, I'm pretty sure it was wing backs with March and Trossard playing at wing backs. So Brighton are a good team, like they're not. Sometimes I think maybe they get overhyped a little bit. They're not prime Barcelona, but they're really good. They're really well coached. They've got players who can fill in different roles. So I think you kind of know they're going to be well coached. You know what you're kind of going to get from them. Casado in particular is one of those players that they seem to have picked up for not a lot of money. I think it was a Dan Ashworth special, but who now would be probably worth quite a lot more based on his last 2 performances. So yeah, they've got some big solid defenders. They do have the Argentinian Scottish weird spelling in midfield as well. I think his dad might be Scottish actually. I think I read that at some point. But yeah, something weird going on there. But yeah, so it's going to be a hard game basically, especially at Brighton. So and that's how it turned out to be.
Yeah, even with the bizarre formations, they're clearly well drilled. They're clearly comfortable playing it, and they just seem to work. It just seems to work for them, which is great. And they've got, as I said last night in the live watch along, they don't have that superstar players like scattered around their squad, but they've just got a lot of really good, solid players that. There's a fair few of those there, especially Trossard. I think we've all made our feelings known that Trossard would be a welcome addition if he was ever to join Newcastle. Probably Lamptey as well, being on the bench. There's just good players, but they're all so well drilled in the team selection that they have. What did you make of it, Keegan?
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with what you guys said. They're a very even team. It's like they're all 7 out of 10 players. They don't have that 10 out of 10 superstar, but they also don't have like a 4 out of 10 guy who's could possibly be the one you want to try and exploit during the game. And not only like they all play like that as well, like they're a very reliable team, and that's why they always give you a reliable performance, because they're all really consistent with what they do. And Graham Potter's got them playing really, really well, and they're really well drilled. And yeah, I think we were all pretty hopeful, I guess, coming into the game, more so than expectations were high and stuff like that. It was more of a hope we can get a win, because we know like what sort of team they are, and they're really, really hard to play against.
And there's probably a decent argument as well that if they had a good striker, if they had a real top class striker, then they would raise them to a new level, because they kind of have struggled to score, and they struggled to score again against us. But yeah, there's that argument as well. And I do wonder with Lamptey whether we just overrate him, because he absolutely tore us apart in that game a few years ago. After we beat West Ham in the first game of the season, and then we played Brighton, and they absolutely routed us, and Lamptey was phenomenal, but he doesn't seem to play all the time. So I don't know whether there's something going on there, or whether we just overrate him because we're scared of him because of that game.
Possibly. So on to the Newcastle lineup. Obviously, pretty much unchanged from the opening game, with one big change in Dan Burn moving out to left back because of an injured Matty Targett, and Sven Botman making his first start for the club. I think most of those were picking themselves after the performance they put in the first game of the season. I think it's, a little bit worrying that we've kind of getting these little niggly injuries already so early in the season for me. But so Jack, what did you make of the overall lineup, and how confident were you seeing that Dan Burn was swapping out to left back?
Yeah, I was surprised about that. And then it transpired that Matt Targett had a dead leg, which Craig pointed out that we used to give each other dead legs at school all the time, and it didn't keep us off school for a week. But yeah, it's funny with Dan Burn because he's 6'7" and he doesn't look like a left back, but he played there for Brighton with really good success. I think when we had Kieran Maguire on, he said that was his best performances were at left back. He's a really unconventional 6'7" player. So it's interesting though that he was playing and not Dummett. It kind of shows that Dummett's further down the pecking order there. And obviously we've got Lewis, who hasn't appeared in pre-season and doesn't seem to be fit. So I was pleased that Botman was starting. I think it was a matter of time before he did start. But I guess the only reason he was going to get in was if Burn was needed at left back, or if Burn or Shaw got injured. So it's good for him to get the 90 minutes. I think Burn actually will talk about how he played, but I think he played really well. And the rest of the team was pretty, as he said, it pretty much picked itself after Forest. Possibly could have seen Longstaff in for Willock, but Willock had a good game against Forest as well. So, and the front three really does pick itself, because there's nobody else really of any decent standard there, especially with Fraser seemingly injured.
Fry Razor. Yeah. So Keegan, anything that stood out to you that you were a bit concerned about? Any changes that you would have preferred to see?
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't go with Richie at left back, actually, given the success that he had. But I was a little bit surprised to see, well, first of all, Targett injured, because there was no real talk of that during the week. That I don't think Eddie had mentioned in his press conferences anyone under injury clouds that played last week. Although he did say he expected Lascelles to be available for the game, which he's on the bench. But yeah, unless he just must have preferred Burn at left back over Dummett, whether he hasn't done enough during the preseason and he's sort of just on the bench as an insurance policy at left back, who can also cover through the middle as well. But yeah, like you said, I think it just picks itself. And
I guess the only other option that we probably had was to move Kieran Trippier over to left back and play Manquillo at right back. Obviously, he hasn't played much in pre-season, if at all. I don't think he's had any match time in pre-season. With Kraft being out, then it's obviously it's a little bit of a lack of options, I think. And as I said, it's like, look, that to me is a little bit of a concern, and I think this game probably showcased our lack of depth a little bit, where our first choice 11 and a couple of subs here and there are probably at the standard we'd all like them to be. But you start scraping around the barrel once you get past those players. They can come in and do do a job, but they're not people that you want to be relying on for the most part of the season. So we'll touch on that later on anyway. So 0-0, pretty boring game from a Newcastle perspective. We were pretty much under the cosh for a lot of that game. We were really pressured. Brighton, look, I mean, no disrespect to them because they actually played us off the park in terms of our midfield, and we'll cover that in a minute. They created a lot of chances. They didn't dominate possession as much as it seemed while we were watching the game. I was very surprised when we pulled up all of the stats that they weren't further in front because it felt like they just had all the ball. We maybe dragged it back a little bit towards the end of the game. We brought some fresh legs on. But, look, the one big talking point from that game, and it's something that was trending on Twitter before the game for a McDonald's ad, apparently. Nobody seemed to know exactly how that had happened, but yeah, apparently it was a tongue-in-cheek response to a poll from McDonald's or something like that. But yeah, Nick Pope had an absolute masterclass in goal and pretty much single-handedly saved us a point. He made some absolutely fantastic saves, commanded his area really well. Had one moment where he kind of parried a ball out and it was kind of just into the path of one of the strikers and like sort of knocked it out of their way and then collected it, but seemed pretty assured. What did you make of that one, Keegan? I mean, he's obviously, I think it's pretty safe to say he's nailed down. He's the number one keeper role now.
Yeah, for sure. I think last night for us, yesterday for those overseas, I think he displayed in that game why Burnley stayed up for the last 5 years, I reckon. Like, he was outstanding. I thought he's clearly our best player on the day. And, yeah, like I don't think we didn't defend that bad, but when they did get in behind and had them shots, I think of the Lallana header as well, that was a fantastic save that he kept that out. But, yeah, he was fantastic yesterday.
Yeah, he's done really well for himself, and it kind of annoys me when you get these games, and you do get them. I mean, I remember Mark Schwarzer having an absolute blinder for Fulham against us, where he made like 25 saves or something, and we just couldn't break them down. It happens. I don't like it when people say, "Oh, you were lucky, your keeper was pulling off random saves that he shouldn't have." Your keeper's there to make those saves.
That's his job.
Yeah. That's his job. He's there to be at that level where if somebody does get behind the defense, he's capable of pulling off a save. He's not there just to stand around and like kick the ball up front when he needs to. So for me, it's like a little bit disrespectful for Nick Pope because I think he's just as important in his position to securing those points as a forward is or a central defender. Jack, what did you make of his performance? And I want to kind of, and I'll ask you as well, Keegan, for this. What do you make of his chances now for representing England at the World Cup?
Well, I was gonna say that with little T-Rex arms not having a great start to the season, I don't think it's beyond the realms that Nick Pope, if he keeps keeping clean sheets and if he plays like he did yesterday, that he could play for England. When he was with Burnley, Burnley had this reputation of kicking it long, and they did do that a lot. But we wouldn't have signed him if we weren't confident that he had the ability with his feet as well. Yeah. So on display yesterday was clearly a shot stopping, which was good. I think the save from Lallana particularly was a really good save, and he was probably maybe fortunate that Brighton weren't that clinical with some of their chances. And obviously he was kind of beaten twice when we cleared off the line as well.
Yeah.
But I think when you've got a goalkeeper who's that kind of imposing and who has got that ability as well with the ball at his feet, which is what we wanted, I think it spreads confidence through the defense and through the whole team. So he's at prime age as well, I think he's definitely in. You'll be in the England squad without a doubt. Possibly Ramsdale might be the other one who's going to be competition, but he seems to be a bit erratic as well, or he doesn't seem to have the calmness that Pope has.
Yeah.
So it's a really good thing for us, I think, that he was selected for the first game, because otherwise it was going to be a constant question of who's the number one and when's Pope going to play.
And probably even more important. is that he's pulled in the performances to back up his selection as well. So it hasn't created this tension of like, oof, yeah, he shouldn't be back in that squad now, and we need to get Dubravka back in. So he's actually backed up that, which is nice.
And I don't know whether he was promised or whether he was told by Eddie Howe that he was going to be number one. Probably wasn't. He was probably told that he would get opportunities, but that it was going to be. And it's good to have competition in that position as well.
Yeah.
So I think he's at a prime age. Him and Dubravka will push each other, and that's what you want when you want to be a club pushing for the top half or for Europe. You want to have competition in the goalkeeping position as well.
Yeah. Do you reckon he's shoo-in for the England squad at least, Keegan? Maybe think, not starting, but definitely for the squad.
It's really, really hard to judge because if he's playing really well, that means we're probably not playing very well. Like you think last week against Forest, like he was pretty anonymous. He didn't have much to do and things like that. But then we get a game like yesterday and he definitely got us a point. So, I mean, T-Rex is probably going to get a fair bit of work over the first half of the season, given
their defense was awful.
Yeah, so I think he'd definitely be in the squad, but we sort of want him to be that number one, but we don't want him to show the form to get him to number one. Like it's a really sort of 50-50 of which way you want it to go. But I think
Southgate goes with players he's loyal to as well.
Yeah.
So T-Rex has done a job for him in the World Cup and the Euros. So
sometimes I think the club form doesn't actually matter.
Yeah,
matter as much for
England.
him. Yeah, well, should Harry Maguire be playing? Should he be a walk-up starter for England? Probably not. No, but
exactly.
Because he's trusted by Gareth Southgate, then he probably gets picked every week or every break.
So in terms of the goalkeeper's performance, I do want to touch on the defense as well, because despite the fact that Pope has pulled off some absolutely magnificent saves, I didn't think the defense looked all at sea for the game. I think there were moments where Brighton, just because they were comfortable passing the ball around, or we made a few mistakes in giving the ball away, and they were putting a lot of pressure on us, they were pushing high. They were doing to us what we did to Nottingham Forest last week. But I thought, we looked comfortable in defense for large portions of the game, despite being under that pressure. I was very impressed with Dan Burn at left back. There's one thing I am potentially a little bit disappointed in, and I think that we are missing Matty Targett for that purpose, is to give that cover for an attacking sense. I think Matty Targett offers more going forward, just because he's probably more used to playing that, sort of marauding left back up the side of the pitch and interacting, making those passes to his teammates, making those overlap runs. But Sven Botman, first start for the club, played brilliantly well, I thought, without being a superstar player. Net didn't really put a foot wrong. Really solid performance for him. And look, it's a clean sheet, second clean sheet in a row for us. You can't complain at that as a start to the season. Keegan, I'll let you go first. What do you reckon? What do you reckon of the defense? And are you keen to see us maybe not have them as as relied upon as they potentially were yesterday to cut everything out?
Yeah, for sure. But like me and Craig spoke on the preview show, we just sort of mentioned, I think the game was going to be either won or lost in the midfield, and whoever got on top of the midfield was probably going to control the game. And I thought Brighton did. But having said that, I thought our defence stood up, like you said. They stood up really, really well, kept another clean sheet. And I thought Botman was pretty impressive for his first game. And even though Eddie had mentioned last week he was sort of planning on giving him the Bruno treatment of easing him in, he can watch, see the pace and stuff like that, and sort of start gradually feeding him into the side. He just sort of threw him in straight away against the team who dominate the ball and really like possession. I thought he handled himself really, really well.
Yeah. Jack, what's your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely agree. I actually think Byrne was pushing Pope for man of the match. He was really good. When you've got Byrne and Botman just stepped in like he'd never not been playing in the Premier League. I didn't really notice him much, which was a good thing. But he had a few passes where he just got the ball. When you've got Byrne, Botman, and Shaw, who is so comfortable on the ball, even that goal line clearance, Shah was just like so, like sort of relaxed about it. He was just like, "Oh, I'm just going to kick this and then just kick it out on the goal line." But when you've got players like that, who again, it just spreads kind of confidence, and there's a real difference with those three. With Lascelles, who you can just tell panics when he's on the ball and when he's under pressure. Trippier actually didn't have a very good first half.
Thought so. I didn't think so.
So he was a bit sloppy, but I think he picked up in the second half. And he's a quality player, so it's a bit of an anomaly for him. But he was probably the weakest of the defenders. But I just feel confident. I feel so confident with those three at the back that we're going to be calm. We're going to be collected. I think it might be a different matter when we play teams who have got better attackers. So Manchester City, and we saw with Byrne last season that Chelsea gave him problems, and Spurs and Manchester City as well. So that might be where sort of the issues come in. But in games like this, he was up against Solly Marsh mainly, who was pretty quick and who obviously knows well. And I think he gave a really good account of himself. And it'll be interesting to see who actually gets that shirt long term. It probably will be Botman, but it'll be interesting to see which way that goes, because they're all really good.
I was going to ask
strength and depth. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you thought. So, assuming Matty Targett is back next week, given how both of those two played, what do you do? I mean, you've got to play Matty Targett at left back because he's the natural left back, but it's going to be harsh on either Botman or Byrne, whoever does get dropped to make way. I can't see him dropping Shah. It's going to be interesting to see which way Eddie sort of twists on that one. But either way, as you said, look, it's strength and depth, and we've got cover now, and we know that they're all capable of doing it. And as you said, they were up against pacey players, and neither Byrne nor Botman looked like they were getting completely skinned every time the Brighton players came through. Yeah, look, there was a couple of times where they got in behind, but that was more from good passing the ball and good pressure than actual just being sort of found out by our defenders. So the one thing that we did lack, I think, and this is the next thing I wanted to kind of go through, our midfield looked just completely off the pace. Given how much we dominated the ball and dominated sort of, getting the ball back and pressuring the defenders of the opposition against Nottingham Forest, it was completely reversed today. And our forwards didn't get much of the ball. Brighton defended quite deeply at times, I thought, but we just couldn't break them down. And every time Joe Linton got the ball, he seemed to have two Brighton players around him, pressuring him. Bruno didn't have any time on the ball to do anything. What we did cover last night while we were actually watching it live was that there seemed to be a lack of movement ahead of Bruno. So he was looking for the Joe Linton pass next to him, which wasn't on because Brighton was swarming them in midfield. And so then they were actually losing the ball. I do wonder if Maxi and Miggy, they just didn't prove enough end product either. So they were kind of maybe not doing their jobs, tracking back enough and contributing to that midfield. And we seemed to be outnumbered all the time. So maybe there was a tactical issue there. So, I mean, Jack, what did you make of our midfield, in particular, probably Joe Linton and Bruno being less than their normal dominant selves?
Yeah, well, we've been relying on them so much through that good run last season and in the Forest game. And they had off games. They did, Bruno had probably one of his weakest games for us. Yeah. And Joe Linton, like you said, they were creating a few chances, but they were mainly from kind of what seemed to be kind of lazy or complacent sort of misplaced passes in the midfield from those two, and you really don't expect it from those two. And it was a very different challenge from against Nottingham Forest, but I think the two Brighton midfielders, which was Caicedo and McAllister, had the better of them. I think we had a good first half of the first half, so first quarter of the game, it was quite even. But after that, they definitely won the midfield battle. So that's why I was relieved to come out with a point. And that's where, like I said, where most of their chances came from. But, they're a good team. Brighton are a good team, and it's going to be it's going to be a season where we do have games like that, where we're playing against good technical teams. Joe Linton did what he usually does and got himself riled up by having a fight with Solly Marsh in the second half.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one though.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, but I just think they were outplayed by the Brighton midfield. They won't be the first team that happens to this season, and it's good. It's a good lesson for Bruno that he's not going to have it all his own way all the time. Yeah. And Willock was in there as well, and I think I'm not sure his value in games like this because he's good when there's space to run into. And when he's going to be able to get forward and get chances, he's not particularly good at kind of keeping the ball in the midfield. So I think Longstaff might have been a better, or Shelby, if he was fit, would have been a better call for this game. But Willock will have his uses, but I'm not sure he was right for this game. So that's why I think we really did lose out in the midfield, and I'm just relieved and pleased that it didn't affect us too badly with the final result.
Yeah, it's our midfield normally seems to have a lot more energy, and this is one thing that has kind of worried me slightly is that they rely on that tempo for the game, and it's fine at St James's Park when the crowd's rocking and they're behind you and you're playing well and they're cheering every single pass that you make and every tackle you make to keep yourselves going. But we just seem to lack that energy against Brighton, and credit to Brighton that they showed that energy more than we did, and they got the reward in dominating that midfield battle. I don't think it's something that we need to stress too much about, but it's an away game and against a good side who are very good at home. Certainly against us. Excuse me, Keegan. How much of a worry is it for you that Joe Linton seems to be trying to pick fights with everyone at the moment when he gets a bit frustrated?
It's only a worry if something ends up happening. Yeah, until there's an outcome or an issue that actually presents itself that becomes a problem for the team, then it's not an issue. If he can know where the line is and get as close as the line, get as close to the line as he can without stepping over, then I'm all for it. Let him go. But sometimes it's like maybe he needs to be on the edge to get himself in a position where he thinks he's going to play well.
Yeah,
so he can't
kind of needs that intensity to his game.
Yeah, like a bit of white line fever. By all reports, he's a very fun and placid guy around the team and in the dressing room and stuff like that. But he must get that white line fever where once he steps onto that grass, he's just a winner, and he's going to do anything he can to try and win that game for his team. But yeah, I also think with Maxi and Almiron, like you said, they seem to play a bit higher, and we didn't have that outlet pass through the midfield. And I was just thinking, I was thinking last night too, I wonder if they tried to push their back four back rather than bring them up and sort of really live in our half and get their possession game going in our half, where the actual instruction might have been to keep our forward players high and try and get their defenders back. But the byproduct of that is when we get it in the midfield, we don't actually have them passes and them players to give it to. So it's sort of you're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
And it comes down to that weird formation again as well, doesn't it? Where, I mean, where are you going to be matching up against something like that where you're not quite sure who's playing in what position or where they're going to be drifting to?
But like Jack said, I think is sort of bad as we were and as good as they were. These are the games where we actually got a point out of it. At the end of the day, we didn't play well, but we still got something out of the game and kept a clean sheet. Like, there's still some positive things to carry on and keep going in this first part of the season.
No, for sure. And I think one of the talking points of the first half was something that maybe we feel a little. Well, certainly I thought was incorrect decision from the ref at the time. It would have been very harsh on Brighton had we managed to snatch a 1-0 win in that game after they dominated the ball so much. But Wilson had the ball in the back of the net. It was chalked off for a high boot, and I still cannot figure out what he's meant to do there other than try to win the ball. It was probably a good 1.5 to 2 foot away from the defender's head when he made contact with the ball. And we all remember back to last season when Longstaff got his head collected by a boot when he was trying to head the ball clear, and that one was not even given as a foul. So it's hard to kind of justify missing out on that goal from Wilson for something that we've, and this is something that we keep harping on about with the referee decisions, and something that VAR was meant to kind of fix is consistency. You shouldn't be getting decisions one way in one game, and then the next game you play, you don't get the same decision for the exact same sort of situation in the game. So, Keegan, you've seen that goal, yeah. I'm assuming, and what did you make of it? Because at the time we all thought that's not a foul. I mean, it's close, but that should have just been play on.
Yeah, I actually don't hate me for saying this. I actually sort of sided with the ref and thought from our angle on the TV compared to his angle on the field, like that's how you have to judge it. And the VAR's there for a clear and obvious
That's
error.
the thing. That's the thing.
Like,
it's
that's
the VAR.
So that's I guess, the sort of hanging point on it all, isn't it? Like, I don't think it was clear and obvious. Like, from the referee's perspective, his head was close enough to be in a dangerous position. Well, he clearly didn't make contact with him or anything like that. No. It was still in a dangerous position. And I think with all the things around concussion, not just in football, but in all sports at the moment, I think with anything to do with the head, they'll probably err on the side of caution now rather than let it go. And I think if he didn't pay it, it would have stood, because it's not, like I said, it's not a clear and obvious error. It's all it is a referee's interpretation of what it is. And the same with Longstaff last year as well. They're not clear and obvious, so you sort of have to just copy a lot and move on. There's no point. Yeah, I try to be really diplomatic with these things, because I know how angry people get and they're all against us and everything like that. But yeah, for this one, I think the benefit of the doubt should go to the official.
Yeah, I can see the argument for that. I think, and as I said, look, I mean, I'm not harping on that. Oh, the ref cost us the game, because quite frankly, I was happy with the point. I thought we were odds on to lose that game, the way Brighton were playing, and I'm happy enough that we've come away with the point. But it's more that inconsistency that frustrates people, and it's not that, oh, you've denied us and it's a conspiracy. It's this. Like, it's that lack of consistency in games, and it's across all games. It's not just that they're picking on Newcastle, as much as the fans always want to feel that they're being victimized by the referee, and it's always this conspiracy and we need to get our sort of tinfoil hats back on again. It's not that clear cut. It's the fact that there's just so much inconsistency from game to game, let alone from week to week, which frustrates fans, because if they feel they're being hard done by in one decision and they're seeing something else given for the exact same thing in another game, then they're saying, well, hang on, you've cost us a point there, or you've cost us 2 points there, and you've given that to this club. What's going on? Jack, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I agree with Keegan. I think it's a bit like when goalkeepers get fouled or tackled in the box, and it just is always given as a free kick. I think high foot from a striker towards a defender in the box will always be given. I also think Brighton stopped playing when they heard the whistle, so that's probably why Wilson managed to get it in. So, and it generally tends to even out. So we'll probably get a few calls at some point this season that are a bit like that. So I don't think there was, like you said as well, we didn't really deserve to win. So I'm not that bothered about that one. I think fair enough. It was always probably going to be given for that. So and we'll talk about Wilson in a minute as well, but it kind of summed up his frustration of the game, I think.
I was going to say that the only thing we can agree on is the only consistent thing about referees is their inconsistencies.
Yes. Yeah. I'm still raging after that Chelsea game last season. So I'll never forget
that. That wasn't. I was adamant last year there was a conspiracy against us. As soon as that takeover went through, we got nothing.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that Chelsea game pushed me as close as I'll ever get to actually being one.
Yeah.
Getting my tinfoil hat out.
You went to Joel Linton's. You were nearly at Joel Linton's line, I reckon.
No, it does make you wonder at times. I mean, Wilson did have a really struggled for the whole game. He was tightly marked. He was getting a little bit argy-bargy in the second half, especially, where I think it was probably more out of frustration than anything that was actually being done to him. But there were a few times where there were like a few sort of late elbows in the back and a few little niggly fouls that he maybe took offense at. But he was feeding off scraps for the whole game. I think if you're playing with someone like Wilson, you need him to be able to have that ability to run onto the ball, those through balls, which we just didn't have because we didn't control the ball enough, and B, the Brighton defense was playing deep enough that they were cutting that thread out and really nullifying any of those quick counterattacks for us. Jack, like what do you make of Wilson and going forward? And obviously we probably will touch on before we finish this up our transfer window wish list still, because I think that's a huge thing that our only option on the bench realistically was Chris Wood. Who I thought saw the game out quite well for us, to be honest, but doesn't ever sort of pose that same goal threat as someone like a Wilson does.
No, we're desperate for him to stay fit. He's head and shoulders above Chris Wood, and we haven't got any of the strikers in the squad as things are at the moment. So I think he wasn't very good against Forest. He had a frustrating game, and that might be because he didn't have that much space to play in that game, but then he scored that brilliant striker's goal. And then he really was getting frustrated. I hadn't really thought about the fact that Brighton were playing so deep, which was a frustration for him, because obviously the focus was on Brighton keeping the ball and creating chances. But yeah, that's a factor. It's hard when you've got Maxi and Miggy, who obviously haven't got the final ball as well. So I can see why he was getting frustrated. He did let it. His body language just wasn't great at times. There's no point in arguing with the referee, You just need to get on with it. And he was up against three kind of big defenders as well, which happened to Chris Wood a lot last season. He was ploughing a lone furrow with his support players quite far away from him, and he was having to kind of do it all on his own. But we know that Wilson will score goals. I think I was interested in the chat that you and Craig had, Keegan, last week about England, because if you look at the chances of players playing for England, if Wilson can stay fit for the next 14 games, and if he can score 6 to 8 goals, he's probably a shoo-in for that backup position for England as well. So we desperately hope he stays fit. We do still have a couple of weeks left to try and get a decent backup for him. But it's a difficult situation where if you want someone better, you're going to have to spend tens of millions of pounds. And if you want a backup, then they're going to want to be guaranteed some game time. You probably just have to show them Wilson's injury record to know that they will get game time at some point. But yeah, frustrating game for Wilson, but we're heavily reliant on him at the moment. So, and he's a quality player, he's a really good striker.
No, I'm happy enough with him. It's just, we need him to stay fit. And unfortunately, it's not something that I think a lot of us are willing to put a lot of money on for the season. Unfortunately, the injury record is there for everyone to see. I want to kind of move on because I think this is going to be a bit of a heated topic. St. Maximin's dive it was outside the box as well. So he's basically taken the ball. He's beaten his defender. He's then dove like he's in Swan Lake and got rightfully, in pretty much everyone's eyes, got a yellow card for diving. What frustrates me is there was literally zero need for him to fall over where he did, because he'd already beaten his man. The ball was in space and he could have ran onto it and had a clear shot on goal. And I think that's like the frustration that we're seeing at the moment from him, is that decision-making in that final third of the pitch. He's great taking players on. He's fast. He's got the dribbling skills, but he just seems to be making that wrong decision time and time again at the moment. Keegan, I'll start with you. What did you make of the yellow card?
It was ridiculous. As in, what he did was not the yellow card wasn't ridiculous. What he did was ridiculous. But I think he's in a really interesting stage of his career with us at the moment. Like he's basically just been given a pat on the back of the head by the previous manager and just said, go out and play. Like he didn't have to conform to any structure or playing style. Not that anyone did, because I don't think there was one, but he was just the maverick who just go out and play, mate. Like we just do whatever you like. And now he's actually been coached into a team structure and more of an individual. And I think he's starting to get a little bit confused, and it's affecting his decision making now, because he wants to be the maverick, but he needs to be the team guy. And I think he's finding it really, really hard to like work out which one he's going to be. He knows which one he has to be. He has to be the team guy, but he's had it on his terms for so long that I think he's finding it really hard to bend back into a team player rather than that individual flary player. And he's probably been like that his whole career. I mean, that's probably why he hasn't gone on to play for France and stuff like that, because he's got all the attributes to be able to do it. But I think he really struggles buying into a team way, because he wants to do it his way. So yeah, like I said, he's at a really interesting stage of his time with us at the moment, because I think it's going to go two ways. He'll just throw the toys out of the cot because he's not being able to do what he wants, or he can bend back into the team and actually be a really valuable player for us, one we don't need to
Interestingly, his body language for the game I thought was really off. I don't think he was really focused. Stinky. And obviously there was the big thing where when he did get subbed off, he literally walked straight past Eddie Howe, didn't shake hands, didn't do anything. And that's kind of not what you want to see. It's like, yes, you've had a bad game, but a lot of that's on you, not on anyone else. We're bringing you off because you got a stupid yellow card and we don't want to go down to 10 men. So, it's making those decisions for him for his own good at times. Jack, what did you make of the card and his general play?
The card was just stupid dive, I think you talked about his body language there. His body language is always off. Like it's pretty much always, he's always got negative body language. I really hope I'm wrong about this, but I just can't see how he's going to fit into the team long term. It's telling that he's the one player that Eddie Howe didn't manage to improve, other than the game against Everton where he was phenomenal, where his body language was great because he was really on it. He just hasn't done it, and he had that period where he went away injured and he was back in France. And Newcastle Maverick flair players sometimes get a bit of a bad rap because people expect more from them. Like I remember Laurent Rebet used to get criticised for not tracking back. I think Maxi he is putting the work in a bit more, and pre-season showed that he's passing the ball a little bit more, but his body language is still bad. The dive was stupid. He still is not making the right sort of decisions going forward. I really value what he's brought to us. I love watching exciting players like that, but I'm already going to that. The thing that annoyed me last season against Palace when he did all those step overs, and he just didn't go anywhere. He just did them all. The defender just laughed at him, and then he had to pass it backwards. Like stuff like that. Like you'll get it'll go viral and you'll get YouTube views and things for that. But like it's just annoying. He just annoys me a lot, and I can feel myself getting annoyed by him. And I know that that's not fair because he's one of our most talented players, who is one of our most likely ways of getting a goal. But if he's not doing it at like a 9 out of 10 level, he's more than often than not, he's like a 4 out of 10, and he's a passenger. And last season when Jacob Murphy plays, when he was injured, the team played better, So I worry about his long-term future. I feel bad for saying that because I appreciate what he's brought to us, but Keegan's right. Under Steve Bruce, he could just go and do what he wanted. So I think maybe that's what he needs to play to his best, and that's fine. But that's not going to happen at Newcastle now because we need players who are going to buy into it.
Oh, look, I think he's been. I mean, there were times against Brighton where he lost the ball, but he chased it back down and he actually won the ball back a couple of times. So he's doing his defensive duties a lot more than what would ever see off Lauren Ribera or someone like that. Or I mean, as much as people don't want to admit it, David Ginola never tracked back either. The difference is
Ben Arthur as well.
Well, Ben Arthur was shocking for it, but those sorts of players, you're not expecting them. You want a little bit out of them if you can get it, but they're there to create goal threats. And nobody is going to care if St. Maximin is not tracking back all the time, or he's exposing one of his defenders to an attacking threat if he's producing the goods going forward. But right now he's not, and that's the problem. It's like he's just not producing at the right end of the pitch for what he is known for. And as we've said, his body language is just all over the place, and he just doesn't seem to be. I don't know whether he's not enjoying it or whether he's feeling the pressure, or he's trying to do too much and he just wants to be able to focus on one thing in his game, and now he's trying to pass it and he doesn't know when he's supposed to pass and when he's supposed to shoot and when he's supposed to take players on now. And it's seemingly showing in his game. There have been a few more rumors circulating around where we would be willing to listen to offers for him now. I don't know whether this is just yet more media talk or whether there's a little bit more to it, because Eddie Howe is getting frustrated with him. Look, for me, I think he is an exceptional talent. I think if he's on his game, he's unplayable, but he's more a luxury player for me that we don't have the luxury for right now. If you can have him there when you're dominating the rest of the game and you can just kind of say, look, go do your thing, then that's great. But if you want to try and build a structured team ethic that plays a certain way and you need all the pieces to click to pull that type of game plan off, you need him to buy into that as well. And so it is a tricky thing. Quick word, Jack, I'll let you go first. Would you sell him? How much for? And what's the conditions?
Well, there was talk about he's available for 40 million today, which for me, I don't know who's going to pay that because of his inconsistency in end product. But yes, I would accept 40 million, provided we had a replacement lined up, and hopefully another player as well. So if you can sell Maxi for 40 million and get a replacement left-sided attacker and a right-sided attacker for 60-70 million for two, I think it's a no-brainer. You'll get people who are going to buy into what we're doing more, even if it's somebody like Jack Harrison at Leeds, who's already got 2 assists this season, by the way. I think, and I'm still in the camp of just trusting what the club do. And if Eddie Howe's worked with him for almost a year and he doesn't think he's going to be able to get the most out of his talent, then that's good enough for me. But however, I don't think he will get sold, because I don't think anyone's going to want to pay 40 million pounds for him. And I think that probably is about what we would have to be asking for somebody, because he still is, like we said, he still is probably our biggest goal threat behind Wilson. And if he's not in the team, then we'll look very toothless. So I would say about 40 million. If we can get that, sell him and get the replacements in. But if not, keep him. And it's a big season for him, though. He's going to have to pick up, or he will get sold next summer.
No, definitely. Keegan, what's your thoughts?
I wouldn't mind with Jack. I wouldn't be against him getting sold, but I'm more of the reverse of, I think we need to bring a player in first and then sell him, because I think clubs will know that we're desperate for a left winger now, and then you'll get the Newcastle tax, and we know you need a player now tax, and the price will be like nearly double, I reckon. So they've got to be a little bit crafty if they're going to go about it that way, where they have to. I think they'll have to sell him after they bring a replacement in, so it doesn't look like they're going to do that. But we haven't really been linked to anyone being a left winger at the moment, so I don't think it's on the cards.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's more for the greater good for the team. If we can improve the team, then I don't think any player is unsellable at the right price, as long as we can move the team as a whole forward and improve, squad depth, but also first team quality. Then that's got to be our first and foremost priority. Certainly right now, because we are still building. We're not even a year down the line from the takeover, and I think that's kind of, people need to bear that in mind when we start getting a bit frustrated. And it's easy to, because it's clear that we do need some more cogs to the wheel and a few more pieces to the jigsaw to slot into place before we can really be pushing higher up on the table. It's just that, we need to be a little bit more patient and realize how far we've come in just such a short space of time. If we have a look, I want to pull up that team sheet again. The big problem for me with that is once you get past that first 11, we're running pretty thin on the ground for impact subs. Murphy, great. He can come on, run quickly at people and then shoot the ball against the post. We've got, Manquillo, probably can slot in now and again at right back, maybe at left back. Lascelles is going to go in there and fill a body and run people down and hoof the ball long, but he's not going to be able to play the style of football that we want to play. Dummett, who knows how many injuries we're going to get off him this season. Chris Wood, not exactly prolific. Elliot Anderson, huge potential, but it is just that at the moment. We don't have this ready-made player right there. He's there getting experience, and chances are if we need to, we'll probably end up shipping him out on loan before the end of the window because he needs game time, and right now he doesn't seem to be getting it. Longstaff looked pretty good in preseason, but then again, so did Mickey Almiron, and Almiron's reverted straight back to form and just looks toothless in front of goal again. So, Keegan, what do you make of that team in terms of the substitutes and the impact depth? And what do we reckon we need going forward? I mean, obviously we've all talked about it. We need some forward reinforcements. We need to get that right wing sorted. We need to get like another backup striker. It's difficult. How much are we desperate for that? And how much would you be disappointed if we finish the window as we are right now?
I think we desperately need it. I'd be pretty disappointed if we didn't bring in another player before the end of the transfer window. Ideally, I think we probably need another 3, especially with Shelby's long-term injury as well. So I think we need that midfielder, a winger and a striker. But looking at the subs, I mean, they're more soldiers, I guess, where they'll come on and do a job. Like they just graft, like Richie's a grafter, Lascelles is a grafter, Wood's a grafter, Longstaff's a grafter. Like there's no real spark to come off the bench. And, if we're 1-0 down and chasing a goal, like there's no one who screams at you on that bench to say, let's put him on because things might happen. So I think that'll probably be the time that we know we're a good side when we do look at that bench and we do have that depth and we can see guys who can come on for certain situations of the game and actually really positively impact the game.
Yeah.
So, everyone says how long it's going to take to get where we want to go. I think once we fill them subs with a bit more quality, I think we'll be well on our way to getting where we want to get to.
And look, those subs that you're talking about, those impact subs, could probably end up coming in the next season to 2 seasons from youthful recruits that we're already starting to sort of fill the youth team and the academy out with, that are probably then going to be that next level of player coming through, and they're going to be young players, so they're going to be happy with coming off the bench for a while they learn their trade. And that's probably what we're looking at. And then we build up to the point where, a lot of those players are starting to get old now, and they're not going to be around for much longer. Realistically, Fede Fernandez, he's out injured again or hasn't played a lot of football. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I can't see him getting a new contract because he's just getting too old now. We're going to have to start replacing these players. So I think what the club's trying to do, by the looks of things, is that Brighton model with Dan Ashworth, recruiting young, good quality talent that we then bring through, that we can kind of automatically insert into the first team picture. Jack, what do you make of the window requirements so far, and where do you think we're sort of aiming towards?
Yeah, well, I think on the squad depth thing, any club outside of the Champions League clubs, if you look at the bench, if they get a key injury or two, then there's a big drop off in quality, and we're no different at the moment. Yeah. Keegan's right; they're just like workman players we've got there on the bench at the moment. I think Anderson's a bit of a wild card, so I'll be excited when he does finally start getting some game time. But we need an attacking wide player. That's clear. We need backup for Wilson, and I think we could do with another central midfielder as well. I was talking about the in terms of the backup, the depth as well. I was talking about FFP the other day, and we haven't got any saleable players. We haven't got any players worth selling, other than probably Maxi. He's probably is the one that we might be willing to sell. So we're restricted to an extent, but the club are trying hard to get players in. We've been bidding 40 million, 50 million for players, even if it's structured in a way that's going to benefit us in terms of keeping our powder a little bit dry. So something might have to give there. I think we definitely do need attacking reinforcements. But look, I've been patient for 35 years of my life supporting Newcastle. I 100% trust what the club are doing. We've got the right people in the right positions. So this is probably an unpopular opinion, but even if we're ended the window now as we were, which I don't think we will, but I still think we've got a good enough squad and a good enough manager to finish in the top half, or at least to get to January and then reassess. I don't think that'll happen. I do think we'll bring somebody in. I think it's a good thing that we're not just going and buying anybody, just because that's what fans want, and that's what we need to fill those gaps. But we want players who are of the right character and who are of a good enough quality to really make an impact in the first team, and that's a good strategy as well. So I'm in the camp where I just trust what they're doing. I have lived through Mike Ashley, so I get where the frustration's coming from. The club know what's needed. Ashworth and Howe are smart people. Struggling to create much against Brighton is not going to change their opinion that we need attackers. It's obvious to everybody. I think it'll happen, but I'm not going to be too despondent if it doesn't. And I remember January where we were having similar conversations with a couple of days to go, and then we all of a sudden signed 3 players. So the transfer market's so unpredictable. It's crazy. There's a lot of moving pieces. I trust that we'll get there in the end, but if not, we're still in a hell of a better position than we were 1 year ago, and I'm happy with that.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's worth always remembering, that we've effectively replaced our entire back five. We've got an absolute world-class midfielder on his day in Bruno. We've discovered Joe Linton's another absolutely top-draw midfielder. They're going to have off days. Bruno definitely had one against Brighton, but sort of plenty more opportunities for him to show what he can do, and I'm sure he will. I agree with you. I actually do think we will still sign someone. There's still a fair bit of the window left that we can get some deals over the line, and that's that dreaded line of over the line again. But
Hardew's line.
Hardew's line. I think we will. I don't want us to go out and just splurge money in an Everton-esque style of financial ruin, if you like. It's not going to do any good. We want the right players. We want to build long term. It's not all about this season. Yes, we would love to be able to sort of crack that top 7, top 8, and get a Europa League spot or something, and that will obviously improve our ability to sign more players next summer. But we've just got to keep building, and we have, and we're constantly improving. And if we can add another 2 players, maybe we add another 2 players in January. And that's something that I think Amanda has always said, is they want to be active in every window to address needs that they've identified during whatever period before that window opens. So, maybe we do sign another 1 or 2 good players in January, and then add another couple in the following summer, and that just constantly builds the quality of the squad. That's all we can really ask for. So yeah, hopefully we do get some signings in. Quick note on the next game up, which is Manchester City. I'm not looking forward to this one at all. I don't know if we're doing a live watch along for this one. I certainly probably won't be. I think I'm going to be out for most of the Saturday, so I think I'll be in a little bit of a worse for wear state for going online. Are you looking forward to this as a spectacle? Do you think we're going to have a little bit more space because Man City will play a bit more expansive style, obviously, albeit with a lot more goal threat from the likes of Haaland and co. Jack?
Well, it's a free hit, and that's a good thing. So we can, as long as we don't get absolutely pasted, then I think it's a good opportunity to test ourselves against the best team, one of the best teams in the world, and just see where we're at. We've got a Manchester City fan coming on for the preview next week, which is going to be really interesting. But I think the games, like, I think it's one of those Sunday night, Monday morning games, which are like absolutely horrible. So I usually pass on watching those ones. So yeah, we'll see about that. But if we get anything from it, it'll be good. If we don't, as long as we don't get embarrassed, then it won't be a problem. As long as we don't get any injuries as well.
Yeah, injuries and keeping that goal difference intact, I think, is the two things that I'm looking for. Keegan, what about yourself?
I'm actually really looking forward to the game, just to get it out of the way early in the season, and then you don't have to stew on it for 9 or 10 weeks until it comes up. You're like, first one, bang, let's get it out of the way. And I think we've got Liverpool.
Yeah,
Liverpool after
next
that.
2 weeks later, we've got Liverpool away. So you're right. It's good to get these games out of the way.
Smash these two out of the way, and then hopefully we can get into a nice little run of fixtures where we can look at pick up points before.
Well, remember when we played Man City and Liverpool, even when Rafa was here, and we just sat everybody behind the ball. It was so demoralising. So just to know that we're not going to do that, and that I think Man City will be worried about Joe Linton and Bruno playing. We've got physicality now, which we didn't used to have. Yeah. So I don't think they'll be relishing it. And they're the only team, along with Liverpool, that have actually beaten us at St James's Park since Eddie came in. So I think it'll be an interesting game.
Yeah, hopefully we can spring an upset. I can't see it, but hope springs eternal. Right then, I think we'll probably end it there. Thanks for everyone who's been watching and listening on the different audio podcast platforms that we're on as well, and watching on YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. We've had a few new followers lately, and a few new subs, which is great. So thanks very much for everyone for doing that, and we will catch you later. Thanks very much, Jack and Keegan, and we'll see you around.
Just a little final word. So I was discussing Newcastle United with my daughter, as I often do, my 2-year-old daughter. And we were talking about man of the match, as we do. I was saying, what about Burns' performance and how did you think Bruno did? But all she said was this. With that. The weekend of
awesome. Yeah, just to add to the Nick Pope furor around the weekend. Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks very much, gents, and I will catch you next time.
Cheers.
See you, boys.
See you later.
Wow.